making you a better investor in the commodities sector. My name is Jesse Day. Today is January 19th, 2026, and I'm thrilled to welcome Rick Rule to the program, a legendary commodities investor and speculator and the CEO of Rule Investment Media. Rick has sold 80% of his physical silver, and although he believes it could go much higher, he has rotated 50% of that capital into an area he sees a greater value in, and that is the silver mining sector. He reveals which names he's invested in, along with breaking down why he thinks silver stocks are set to outperform in 2026. Rick also breaks down his views on the gold space, the metal and miners, uranium stocks, and why he's still bullish on the other yellow metal, and you're going to want to stick around to the end of the interview, where Rick goes deep on the oil and gas space and why he thinks Canadian energy companies in particular are especially cheap right now. Guys, the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference is coming up this weekend, the 25th and the 26th. That'll be a Sunday and Monday in Vancouver at the Convention Center West. Tickets are free. The link is in the description below to get yours. Me and Rick will both be there, and I hope to see you there. But now, without further ado, my conversation with Rick Rule. Rick Rule, it is great to have you back on Commodity Culture. I want to kick things off by discussing the silver sector because we had a few conversations in the past when silver was around the $30 range, and you said that as a contrarian, you loved how hated silver was at the time. Well, here we are at $94 and change. It feels like the narrative has flipped. Both my X feed and my comment section is frequently filled with people proclaiming we have entered a new era for silver. This is just the beginning. Silver's never coming back down for a number of, pick your favorite narrative, monetary debasement, silver shortages, etc. Is now perhaps time to take some profits off the table? And I wonder if you ascribe to the idea that one should always keep some physical metal on hand as an insurance policy, regardless of the price.
You asked me a bunch of questions there, so I'll try to answer them.
Yeah.
I'll try to remember them. With regards to the last question, I save in gold. I maintain liquidity in U.S. dollars. We could talk later about what will cause me to sell my gold, but this price isn't one of them. As you suggest, I'm a contrarian. And you and I talked a couple years ago about silver being a hate trade, and I bought it. I bought it because I thought when the hate subsided that the silver price would increase. Guess what? That happened. In my own portfolio, silver represented in my portfolio a speculative asset class, not an investment class, a speculation class. And the reason that I owned it is because it was hated. And when that reason went away, the silver price went up. So last week, I sold 80% of my physical silver. This is a personalized decision. It might not apply to the rest of your listeners. But I note that the internet response to my announcement that I sold 80% of my silver was filled with hate. So I know I did the right thing. When X is widely lined up against me, I know I'm correct. Now, it's instructive to note what I did with the money. Some of the money, a small amount, I put back into physical gold because insurance is more important than speculation to a rich 73-year-old like me. More than half the money, as it turns out, I put into silver equities because the silver price just has to stay the same rather than increase for the silver equities to do better. The silver equities are discounting about $40 or $45 silver. If we're really in a period of $75 or $80 silver, the silver stocks have to play real catch-up. And so I believe that the silver equities are a better receptacle of my speculative capital than silver is itself. Silver just needs to maintain today's price for me to be rewarded in the silver equities. Silver needs to increase for me to be rewarded in the physical silver. And I believe I have a durable competitive advantage relative to other investors and speculators in the silver space. 50 years of experience in analyzing silver equities. So as a speculative asset class, the silver equities are more appropriate for me personally than silver is itself. Other speculators will need to ask that question themselves as to whether it's appropriate for them. Sadly, many speculators don't know how to question themselves, so they likely won't be able to attract an answer. Make no mistake, I believe that the precious metals bull market and the silver market have a lot further to run. But that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that I'm a disciplined speculator. The reason to own my silver went away, and there is another asset class that fits in that part of my portfolio better. So I shifted to it.
Now, speaking of, getting attacked and getting a lot of hate, interestingly, I did an interview recently with Gary Savage, who said he was very bullish on silver. He thought the price would keep going up, but at some point we could experience a dramatic correction. And this caused the comment section to go into an absolute frenzy. I've never seen anything like it. Everybody was attacking him, talking about how much of a moron he was. People were ganging up together. Doesn't he understand this is a new era for silver? Doesn't he understand monetary debasement, and on and on? It was one of those moments where you look around and you ask yourself, am I in a cult? Because I'm very bullish on silver, but this kind of shocked me to see this kind of reaction. Now, perhaps you could shed some light and walk us through the dangers of getting so emotionally attached to an asset class.
Most people, particularly undisciplined people, and this will generate a lot of hate all by itself, can't invest in a narrative until the price momentum of the underlying commodity has justified the narrative. Everything that is true about the silver narrative today at $80 was true at $20. The difference is that if the silver price goes from $20 to $80, the value of the narrative is arithmetically only a quarter as great. The coiled spring aspect of silver is used up. People need to understand that. If your reason to own it was mine, which is to say the alleviation of hate, that's occurred. Am I saying that the silver price can't go to $200? No, I'm not saying that at all. I don't care. I bought it for a specific reason. The specific reason came true. I expect over 10 years the price of precious metals, including silver, to be not merely higher, but a lot higher. I have found what is for me a more attractive way to express my preference for the silver trade. I will tell you this. I know how good my timing is, and how good my underlying thesis is by how much hate it attracts on X. 10 years ago, I remember proposing renewed investments in the uranium sector, and people were apoplectic in their hate. This is a failed bull market. The stuff has gone nowhere. It's the stuff of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, 3 Mile Island. Fast forward 5 years, and I disclosed that I sold some of my uranium stocks. What a half-wit, they said. The guy steps out of a bull market. Can you imagine anything in the world more stupid? Then the uranium stocks decline, and they say, well, the guy was front-running, right? I know that if I get 30 responses in social media and 25 are violently opposed, that I'm doing precisely the right thing. That's the narrative I look for. Monetary debasement. We can discuss that if you want on your show. We can discuss why the purchasing power of the US dollar and other fiat currencies will decline. We can discuss why precious metals are going to be the beneficiary of that. Happy to have that discussion. Believe it to be true. Probably after 55 years in those markets, I know it more fully than many of the geniuses on X. Happy to do that. Let me introduce some other things to you. Let's introduce a little history. As you can tell by looking at my image, I've lived it. In the decade of the 70s, the US dollar lost 75% of its purchasing power. Not coincidentally, in the decade of the 70s, the gold price rose from $35 to $850. There is some correlation between the deterioration of the purchasing power of the US dollar and, importantly, real interest rates in fiat currencies and the reaction to the gold price. That's the good news, because I suspect that in the next 10 years we'll see another 75% deterioration in the purchasing power of the US dollar. I say good news advisedly. And that should fuel continued increases in the gold prices. But a couple things you need to know. While I believe that in very rough terms, the nominal price of gold, the US dollar gold quote, increases in inverse measure to the deterioration of the purchasing power of the US dollar. What I guarantee is volatility. We will experience in the next 10 years at least one, probably two, 30 or 35% declines in the gold price. We experienced 3 of them in the decade of the 1970s. But the other thing that people need to look at is the chance of a real decline. I remember well in